Good afternoon and welcome to the spectacular station here at Carlisle. It's one of my favourites actually. The station roof is just magnificent, so if you have any free time it's definitely worth a look around. But for today's journey I will be taking a trip down the spectacular Settle and Carlisle Railway. It's one of the most famous railways in England and probably one of the most scenic. It was opened by the Midland Railway in 1876 and the 73-mile route was actually threatened with closure in the 1980s by British Rail, but thanks to a campaign from the Friends of the Settle and Carlisle Line, it's been saved and now sees loads of tourist traffic. Today I'm travelling back from Scotland. Those of you who have seen my previous video will know that I've flown down from Stornoway in the Outer Hebrides, so I'm just using it as a cut through down to the city of Leeds, but that obviously comes with some magnificent views over the Eden Valley and the Yorkshire Dales, so it's set to be a really good video. I'm looking forward to it. Come along with me and we can get this trip underway. As you may be able to tell, I absolutely love the station at Carlisle, and with around half an hour before scheduled departure, I took the opportunity to have a closer look at the wonderful architecture. Opened in 1847, the magnificent station was initially called Carlisle Citadel and was designed by the architect William Tite, incorporating both Tudor and Gothic styles. The beautiful iron and glass roof seen here was added slightly later during extension works, initially spanning 85 metres across the platforms and tracks. However, over the years maintenance of the structure deteriorated, and by 1957 the decision was taken to pull down parts of it and concentrate work on a core section, leaving us today with a smaller yet still impressive roof. Moving on to services, the station sees trains from a variety of operators, including Avanti West Coast up the West Coast Main Line, ScotRail north of the border to Glasgow via Kilmarnock, Trans-Pennine Express to Liverpool and Manchester, and of course Northern along the Tyne Valley, Cumbrian Coast and Settle and Carlisle lines. As well as this, the station is quite the hive of activity when it comes to freight traffic seen here, with operations including the movement of aggregate from various quarries in the area, intermodal container trains across the border, and what is the only successful timber by rail operation in the country. Run by Colas Rail, this service starts just north of Carlisle, where it is loaded with logs before making the 170-mile journey down to Chirk in North Wales, a fascinating sight and one which will make an appearance later on in our journey. And having explored much of the Grand Station, departure time soon approached, meaning it was time to head over to platform 5 where our train is waiting to depart. For today's journey we'd be travelling on a Northern Class 158, workhorse of the regional rail network and staple of the Settle and Carlisle since the early 1990s. Seating on board is still the original British Rail type, though with a refreshed Northern maquette featuring good padding for the 2.5 hour journey, adjustable armrests and modern USB plugs. And having settled into our seats, let's have a look at the route of this famous line. Departing Carlisle in a southerly direction, we navigate the junction taking us off the West Coast Main Line and onto the start of the branch to Settle Junction, former territory of the Midland Railway. From here we actually run fast to the town of Appleby, passing through stations at Armathwaite, Lazenby and Coswold and Langworthby due to our service being one of the few express trains. From here we make further stops at Kirby Stephen and Garsdale before crossing the legendary Ribblehead Viaduct on our way into the station itself. With a final stop at Settle, we then join the Leeds to Morecambe line, taking us into the city centre via Hellerfield, Skipton, Keighley, Bingley and finally Shipley. Total journey time to cover the 112-mile route is exactly 2.5 hours, giving our northern service a relaxing average speed of 45 miles an hour. Leaving Carlisle from the south-facing bay platforms, we soon traverse Petrelbridge Junction, where the 58-mile Tyne Valley line over to Newcastle diverges off to the right. Coinciding with this is the arrival of the onboard trolley, operated not by Northern, but rather the Settle-Carlisle Railway Development Company, selling a range of drinks and light refreshments, as well as a selection of Settle and Carlisle merchandise, including an excellent guidebook covering the sights and history along the entire route, a feature which I absolutely love. And as we get underway, it would be remiss of me not to mention more of the line's tumultuous yet fascinating history. As mentioned earlier, the line was constructed in the 1870s by over 6,000 navvies, who worked in remote locations to traverse terrain which is among the bleakest and wildest in England. This formed what was to be the Midland Railway's prime express route to Scotland, competing directly with their opposition, the LNWR, who used the West Coast Main Line. In 1923, both rival companies were merged into the new LMS, with the steeper gradients and greater length of the Midland route soon becoming clear. By the time nationalisation came in 1948, the pace of rundown had quickened, and despite surviving closure by the infamous Beeching report, in 1984 the line faced the cut yet again. Luckily, popular opinion prevailed. Voluntary groups, local authorities and MPs helped mobilise tremendous support throughout the country, and, confronted with this bitter opposition, the line was reprieved in 1989, signalling a new era of success and regeneration for us to enjoy today. Back on board, we were soon pulling into Appleby past its beautiful signal box, which was actually opened in 1951. The station itself, formerly known as Appleby West, serves the once important county town, whose population has more than halved since the Middle Ages, though former glories are still to be seen in the High Street climbing steeply to the mighty Norman Castle. Unfortunately, there's no time for us to alight and explore, so we press onwards through the Eden Valley. Arriving at Kirby Stephen, we truly get to appreciate the distinctive station architecture that marks the route. The style of design, named Derby Gothic after the Midland Railway's headquarters, has just 3 types of station along the Settle to Carlisle: small, medium and large, featuring beautifully restored benches, signage and lamps, all sporting the classic deep red paintwork. Heading further south with guidebook in hand, we soon reached the summit of the line at Aysgill, which, for the record, is actually the highest point on the English rail network at 356 metres or 1,169 feet above sea level, a title previously held by Stainmore Summit on the line between Barnard Castle and Teebay. And arriving at Garsdale, we crossed the 12-arch Dandry Viaduct, built after attempts to construct an embankment were thwarted by the boggy land swallowing up all the material poured into it. From Garsdale, we climb onwards to Dent, celebrated as the highest mainline station in England at 1,150 feet. Eventually, we once again encounter the timber train seen earlier at Carlisle, this time pulled into the passing loop at Blee Moor to allow our express service to pass. The loop itself is controlled by the signal box, seen peeking out from behind the wagon loads of logs, and one of the most remote on the entire rail network. Soon after this though, we approach what has to be one of the most iconic spectacles of the line, Ribblehead Viaduct. Sweeping across exposed and often bleak moorland, the masterpiece of civil engineering with its 24 arches was completed in 1875 and was one of the key justifications British Rail used in their attempt to close the line due to estimates of restoration costs. Thankfully, these were proven to be inaccurate, and with a fierce campaign from the Friends of the Settle to Carlisle Line, the viaduct was repaired between 1990 and 1992 and the line saved. A short while later, we pull into Settle Station, another prime example of Derby Gothic station architecture, along with its beautiful Midland Railway signal box, opened in 1891. Today the box has been lovingly preserved as a working museum after its closure in 1984, although, as seen throughout the journey, there are still 10 operational boxes along the line controlling point work, passing loops and semaphore signals. Whilst the proper Settle to Carlisle section of the journey may now be over, many passengers like ourselves start or end their journeys in the city of Leeds, meaning we still have around an hour of travel left through the industrial Air Valley. With electric wires signalling the start of the Yorkshire commuter belt, we arrive at the historic market town of Skipton and its beautiful station.
Next station stop is
Not long after this, we briefly call at Keighley, terminus of the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, which shares the station with National Rail services, before tracing the route of the Leeds and Liverpool Canal on the approach to Bingley. With a final intermediate stop at the industrial town of Shipley, where the station is an important junction connecting the region's two major cities, Leeds and Bradford, we make the final approach to today's destination. At this point, it's worth mentioning tickets. For the journey today, we paid just £11.50 each for an advanced single with our rail cart. Excellent value in my opinion, though bearing in mind that prices do vary. Alternatively, those wishing to spend a full day exploring the line can buy a Ranger ticket offering unlimited travel for £27.15 with a rail cart or £40.80 without, something I would definitely like to come back and try out. For now though, our journey along the SNC was over, concluding an extremely enjoyable and scenic journey along England's most beautiful railway. We have arrived bang on time into Leeds station at exactly 6 minutes past 4, concluding our journey along the Settle and Carlisle line. And as you can tell, the weather has taken a turn for the better as we've travelled south, and I've once again had to don the sunglasses because it is actually very warm here compared with up north. Anyway, back to the Settle and Carlisle line. It was just as scenic as we expected, and it was really enjoyable to take the trip down through the Yorkshire Dales. And what a contrast going from the border counties right down to Leeds in the heart of West Yorkshire. And yeah, I really enjoyed it actually, especially the trolley that comes through the train. It's not actually run by Northern, it's run by the Friends of the Settle and Carlisle Line, and alongside all the usual snacks and drinks, it also offers Settle and Carlisle Line merchandise, including the guidebook that I got, and all of the funds from that go towards maintaining the stations along the line. So it's a really good cause, and yeah, it's just a really nice, enjoyable trip. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will hopefully see you on my next adventure.